Basketball is back.
Let's
Harrison
go.
Graham, Jeffrey Cooperstein here on Mavericks Today. The Mavs big game with the Suns tonight. We'll talk about that one coming up here in a little bit. But Timmy Sr. back at it, Coop. I mean, he's always yapping about something. And he went on Mike Miller and Udonis Haslam's podcast, who I'll be honest, I didn't know had a podcast before this interview.
Yes, they absolutely do. And they were asking him about Tim and his career and how he hasn't played for the Miami Heat yet, but he lives in Miami and whatnot. And then Tim Hardaway Sr., pretty unprompted, just said, I've been trying to get him on the Heat for years. Last time I checked, he's played for the Mavs for the last 5 seasons. That just doesn't sit right with me. He was kind of loud early in the offseason as well, talking about how Tim and the Mavericks haven't really meshed and how it might be time for him to change scenery and whatnot. Just wish Pops would stay out of this one.
Yeah, and look, in the offseason, that was a little more understandable because I think Tim's future year was a little fuzzy at the time. Blurry is probably the better word that I was looking for there. But I would say all in all, Tim's had a pretty good run here, and he's definitely had a nice year this year. Now, he's got a little cold before the All-Star break, but he's been, pretty consistently this team's third scorer this year. Before that recent kind of dip in three-point shooting, he's been hovering just under 40% most of the season. I like how he's played here. I remember that one year he was basically the Mavs' second-best player because Porzingis kind of got phased out late in the year. He's had a nice little run. Now, look, let's be honest. He could be a guy that gets traded this offseason. There's no doubt about it. But I'm with you. I don't really like I've been trying to give him to Miami. It's like, dude, you're in the midst of a pretty good year. Your son is. The team he's on's playing well right now. Just
exactly.
Let's save that chat. I don't mind it in the offseason. Played in the NBA before. He played for the Heat. I understand that thinking, but it's like, come on, bro. Let's just focus on the here and now, and the future can take care of itself.
And we know what happened in last offseason where the Mavericks were actively shopping him. I think they were actively shopping him at the deadline, too, to see if they could find a deal for him. He's been in a lot of trade rumors, so I can see where the frustration from his side would come. He does have 1 year left on his deal, which I believe I have it right here, is $16.2 million.
It's going to be very tradable this offseason.
It could be something that we see, and I think that if I had to predict it right now, I would say Tim gets traded this offseason, just because when there's smoke, there's fire, and I think the Mavericks are trying to go in a different direction. I really do.
And look, I'll be honest, too. I think that's probably the best outcome, right? And if they do trade him, I'm not going to have hard feelings. I think they've gotten more out of Tim than they probably thought when he was a throw-in in the Porzingis trade. And look, if he wants to go elsewhere, obviously his pops would like to see him play in South Beach, etc. I could see him playing in Miami for what it's worth. It is what it is. Let's visit it again in the offseason. I still think for this year he has a role and is going to be important if this team wants to make a nice run in the postseason. So what do you guys think? Is this Tim's last year in Dallas? Type Y for yes, type in for no. I would lean yes. I definitely don't think he's a guy that's going to be getting another contract here. So, at most, next year is going to be his last season. But let us know Y for yes and for no down in the comments section. Before we get to our next story here, let's talk about Prize Picks, today's sponsor of Dallas Mavericks Today. You can go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get a deposit match up to $100. And with games back in action tonight, you might as well make this 3-player entry like we did here on Prize Picks. Coop, what do you got cooking tonight?
Yes, it's Mavs Suns, so he had to go with the more with Luka Doncic because he loves playing the Phoenix Suns.
Especially after last time when the Mavs got it big early and kind of blew it. Let's get a bounce back.
Luka's going to get a bounce back dub here. Kyrie Irving more than 36.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
Love that one.
And then Devin Booker, so we're taking the less on his, less than 27.5 points. Mavs need one tonight. It's a big game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we'll talk about that further in just a moment. But again, more or less on the stats, 2 to 6 player entries. You can win up to 25 times your money. It's a fun way to play fantasy sports on a daily basis. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get started today. Dante Exum, Coop, what's the latest there as he has not played much since Christmas?
Yeah, just 5 games since December 28th. Jason Kidd said at Tuesday's practice, where he didn't practice, that he would practice on Wednesday. Believe he did some light stuff on Wednesday. Isn't expected to play tonight against Phoenix, but will hopefully play on this upcoming road trip that the Mavericks have going out east. So The Mavericks need a Dante Exum back because he was very valuable for him when he was healthy at first. And he just adds another piece to the puzzle, another guy who can defend multiple positions, who can handle the rock. And he would be a guy that could take the load off of Luka and Kyrie if they are having an off night.
Yeah, this whole thing's been kind of bizarre, and it's unfortunate because he was playing awesome in November and December, and then, he's just been out for the most part since then. And I'll be honest, Coop, they can say there wasn't I think there was
There had to have been, right?
At some point. Now, maybe in this latter period of training there hasn't been one, but I think at some point, unless the injury was just more severe than we thought, he had a setback because this wasn't he was like day-to-day at first. Like, it wasn't even supposed to be like anything more than he's going to miss a week or two.
So he was out for about a month, then he came back for 2 games on January 24th and 26th, and he's been out since. So that leads me to believe there was a setback because he obviously came back, was healthy enough to play, and now he's not. So what's going on there? Who really knows, but hopefully the Mavericks can get him back ASAP.
The good news is Jaden Hardy's been playing well recently, so they haven't desperately needed him, but I still think he's a guy you want to be able to work in there toward the latter part of the season and into the playoffs potentially as a defensive matchup. All right, subscribe to the channel if you want informative, entertaining, and free Mavericks content. Coop, don't you just love free things in life? There's just not much of it.
Free 99, baby. We give you all the latest Mavericks news, Mavericks rumors, injury updates, all that good stuff. Stay locked into Mavericks Today by Chat Sports. You don't want to go anywhere else.
We got you covered. Hit that subscribe button right now. You look at the upcoming stretch here, Coop. Some tough games. I mean, you got Phoenix tonight, big game. Couple of tough roadies against playoff teams in the East. A manageable game against Toronto. Then Boston comes here. I mean,
they're at Boston. That's my mistake.
At Boston,
yes.
So even tougher. I mean, tonight's big, man.
Big game.
You really need to win tonight because that 4-game road trip is not going to be easy. I mean, you'd probably be pretty happy if you went 2-2 in those 4 road games. Beat Toronto, then at least win one of the other 3. If you could win 3 of 4, even better. But you really need to beat Phoenix tonight, Coop, because you look at the records of each of these teams. I mean, it's a 2-game swing, depending on how this game goes. The Mavericks are 32-23. The Suns are 33-22. So if Phoenix wins, they kind of create a little bit of separation.
Yep.
Plus, would they clinch the tiebreaker for the season because they won the last time they played?
Yes, and I believe they will only play 3 times, so that would be right.
You got to win this game, man. I hate to call it a must-win, but it's as close as it gets in the NBA.
It's a big one, man. It's definitely a big one coming out of the gate. The Mavs won 6 in a row. Phoenix is obviously playing pretty well, figuring out their roster as well, and they're split by just a game in the standings. It's a national game on TNT, so the narratives will just be going crazy no matter who wins or who loses this game. So it's definitely a big game. When you think of regular season games that are must-wins, it doesn't get much more must-win than this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I think it's a good test as well for where this team truly is after sitting back for about a week with the All-Star break. Now, do you believe that the Mavericks can win the title this year? If you do, spam me. I don't know if I'm there yet, Coop, but I like how the end of the first half ended, and I certainly think this team's ceiling is much higher than it was just a month ago.
We'll revisit this on tomorrow's show. If they win against Phoenix, I might be typing me. If not, may have a little pause. Because
it's all on one game.
It's all on one game. That's how this works. So we'll see. But look, I think this team's on the right direction, and it could get really fun here if they go on a little run. So it just could get really interesting.
Spam me if you're a believer, and MFFLs, we will see you guys back here tomorrow, so we'll see you then.